Okay guys, we are out here in the sugar bush. So we haven't done a whole lot of maple videos since we did some, I think we were doing some repairs on the last one maybe. It has not been a very good maple season for 2025. So we have, all our taps are in, and we have not had good weather. We've had 70-degree weather 2-3 days, I think it was, last week. This week went down to 18 last night, and it's up to like 45, 50 right now. So it should be good weather, but the sap just doesn't seem to be there. Today is March 27th, 2025. I had a doctor's appointment and it actually got canceled, so I was already out of work. And so I decided to come out here. So I was out here the other day, and I noticed a couple things that I thought were a little off. So I just want to show you a little bit of tubing, some maintenance. So this was all put in probably about 6 years ago, I think. I think this is a 2020, 5 years ago. So this is a lift. And people are always talking about ways to get sap from lower elevations, things like that. This is a lift that we put in. You'll see it down there. It is a lift made out of spiders, and it has a pretty good sag in it, in the line coming from the lift to the booster. So I'm not too crazy about that. I'm not sure why it's got that sag in it, but I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to show you or not. But when I was out here the other day, it looked to me like the sap was going up the lift kind of fast. And normally fast moving sap would be an indication of a leak somewhere. So I don't know if you can see that or not, but you can see how it's going up. Like from here, it looks like it's shooting up a couple of them, and then it doesn't. Now, right now, it's not shooting up anything. It's kind of moving slow like it should be. And then it'll get where it'll have a little, I think it'll probably have a little shooting up again. So those are the air bubbles that you see. You see the air. Those are the gases in the sap line, not the sap that's bubbling. And you want to see it like that. You want to see it stay slowly moving. So if it starts going fast again, normally that would be an indication of a leak. But one of the problems is, so that would be like that there was a leak up the line to the right, like up through there somewhere. But one of the problems that I see is there's no way to isolate it. Because if you look here, we have the spider. Okay, so the bottom spider, this is the way that, I don't know if you call it the old way or what, but this way works. So the bottom spider is turned down, and actually the top spider on this one is upside down. So it's supposed to be that the top spider is right side up, and the sap gets up there and it gets trapped in the spider, then takes the main line back. But this one was installed wrong. I did not install it, but it does work. It probably doesn't work as good as it should. And then you can see where up top the main line is not wire tied to the end, so it's got a little sag in there, and you can see where it's got some dirty stuff in the back. I don't know if you can see that in the camera or not. So obviously some sap has gone up and gone the wrong way. But there's no way to isolate it for a leak. So there's a gauge up at the booster up there, but there should be a valve and a gauge down here. So that way we would be able to try to figure out, okay, is it the lift that's leaking, or is it the line up the hill that's leaking, or is it the line between the lift and the booster that is leaking? So that's just one thing that, it's like you got to have it. You got to have a gauge and a valve. Otherwise, you're not going to know. Now see the bubbles. You can see the bubbles. So some of them are moving a little faster than others. Now right there, see that? That would indicate there's a leak somewhere. And you can see the sap rushing in the main line. I don't know if you can see that on the video or not. And then it just slowed down. So that would indicate that there's a leak up there. Now I did find a saddle up there that has moved off its spot. So it's not in the right spot. But this is the way you put them together. So it comes down. This is actually what I would call upside down. Sap comes in, comes down, drains down into here, and then gets sucked up out. Then the other one would be up the top, would be flipped up, so it would drain down in this port and go in here and back to the booster. So we're going to try to fix that. We're going to try to fix that, and we're going to put I would like this to be wire tied better too. So I really want this to be this wire here, this line coming in at the proper slope. And I'd like to see that wire tied right there. And you can see how this 5/16 line is in the way. So that's probably why it's left that way. But I'd like to see a gauge right here, and then a valve right next to it. So if I turn that valve off and this gauge goes up, then I know that my leak is between here and the booster, or I would know that my leak is up there. And if I turn the gauge off or turn the valve off and the gauge doesn't do anything, then that would indicate that my leak is between that valve and the booster. So let's go look at the booster real quick. So I like boosters. Some people call them booster manifolds, whatever. I think it's I like them because they help you isolate your system. And one thing is, somebody would say, well, it helps us find leaks quicker. Okay, that's what we want to do. We want to isolate. And if we did have a major problem with a line, say a tree fell on it and it punctured it or cut it or whatever, then we would be able to come out to the booster and turn the valve off for that line and have it off as long as we have to fix it. Whereas if you do some of the other ways, it's not as easily to isolate one line. Like I know a lot of people use the whip. I understand the whip. I kind of like the idea of it, except for, I've seen some people that have, in my opinion, have incorrectly installed the whip. If you're going to have a whip, so the whip would be kind of like this one where this is a Y in here, but the whip, the Y is turned backwards. So the vacuum goes one way, the sap is forced to go the other way. But if you're going to put a whip in, you have to have a valve. If you put a whip in without a valve, you're not going to be able to isolate it, and you're not going to be able to determine, is it line 1 or line 2 that's leaking. So we have valves on all our gauges now. This is a fairly new 5-year-old setup, so these all have the stainless steel valves, which are full port stainless steel valves. Really like them a lot. Those ones are from MES. Then we have a gauge. So everywhere we have a connection of 2 lines, we would like to have a valve and a gauge. So right here, this line comes out. It needs to be picked up a little bit. It's got some sag to it. But there's a Y. There should be another valve on either one and a gauge on whatever one. So that way you could isolate whether it was this line or that line that had the leak on it. Right now, all I can do is shut that valve off, shut this valve off. If I shut that valve off, then I just know it's one of those 2 lines. So I could save myself some walking by putting in it's like probably $30 by the time you put a valve and a gauge is probably $30. I don't know, something like that. So this is the booster. So this is a Lapierre vertical booster. Now, one thing I don't know about is you can hear it. It sounds like it's got a lot of air in it. It sounds like there's a leak, but I just closed all these valves one by one and left them closed for a minute or so each. And I only got a little bit of movement initially, and then now if I close them, I don't get any movement. Now this gauge here was bad. I just changed that gauge, put a brand new one in there. So I thought the lift was leaking. I don't know. but we're only running just a little over 20 inches. I know there's leaks out here. It's just a matter of finding them. Some of them are smaller than others. I was out here the other day and I thought, man, I just need an easy one. There's got to be like a spout off or something. And I have not found one that was like that yet. So I'm not sure if the booster actually might be leaking. It's a possibility. But we're going to put a valve and a gauge in down there and try to figure out if that lift down there has, from the lift up, has a leak. But I just really want to talk just about the maintenance. I mean, I am, for the most part, a one-man show. 3,000 taps, full-time job, a widower with 3 kids that are going to be 6, 8, and 10. I need to have the valves. Now, I did put in Datasur, or Detaser, however you say it. Datasur, some people say Datasur, some people say Detaser. I think it's actually Detaser. But, that shows me those lines, and I don't have enough to do all the lines, obviously. So there is one out here, and there is one over there on those lines. And if I pull it up, it probably will say less than this gauge. It did the other day anyway. It did help me find a couple right away. I was like, oh yeah, I did found one up here where the limb had fallen down and it pulled this tubing off the spout. But we're going to get more of those, and hopefully. But we're dealing with 2 years. We did not tap trees. We did not make syrup in 2024. So I am dealing with 2 years worth of maintenance. Things that didn't get done in 2023 had to be done. Some of them still have to be done. And without isolating things, and we just did not get the beginning of the season that we were planning on getting or hoping to get. We're not getting the season we were planning on getting. Things just have not gone well. There was so many tree limbs and things down out here, but isolating them is the only way we're going to get these leaks found and get the vacuum. I would like to be running 25 plus inches on every tap, and we just got to continue to isolate them until we can do it. So that's going to be the video for today. I might do a little video of putting in the valve down there, but I'm not sure. I don't have a video of making syrup or anything like that. It's been hectic. I have not boiled. My longest boil for the season, including sweetening the pans, was like not even 3 hours. So, I mean, if you boil and you make syrup, you know that the first hour or so, you do not get a moment to rest. And so I can't even do a video because we're just not having long boils at all. We have about 1,800 gallons of sap we've been collecting for 4 days. It's been going down to freezing every night, so it hasn't spoiled, but it doesn't look all that great to begin with. We're going to try to boil it off tomorrow. I have no idea if it's going to make syrup or not. Anyway, I'm not going to ramble anymore. That's the video for today. You can see the sap coming in there. That's the video for today. Like and subscribe to this video. And stay tuned for more from Triple D Farms, Triple D Maple, and Triple D Cabins. Thanks for watching.